Well, Essendon's 2025 draft hand is beginning to take shape as the AFL ladder begins to take shape, particularly with our two academy prospects who we're most likely going to pick up with our picks in this draft. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in this video and what it means for the composition of Essendon's list going forward.
The boys from Windy Hill, they may try to break our spirits, they may try to get the best.
So as it stands, Essendon has picks 5, 6, 22 and 24. Now that can change, of course, but the ladder, because it's beginning to take shape, it will probably remain something like that, give or take a couple of spots. And also it can change because with trading and things like that, you can end up with, you can give some picks away, you can get picks from other clubs for players and all that sort of thing, as we know. One thing that does appear that we will do is that we're going to probably pick up Adam Sweid and Hussein Achkar, our academy prospects, who at this stage are mooted to be maybe, picks in the 20s, something like that. But as the months have gone by, their credentials have gone up and up and up. Sweid in particular, every week he plays in the under-18s, he's putting up really big numbers. Yesterday he had 34 possessions. Hussein Achkar, who's really a small forward, he kicked 6 goals yesterday, which was the most he's kicked in the under-18. So every week their prospects go up and up and up. Sweid in particular fits that mould of the midfielder / forward who can not just play in the midfield but can play sort of two positions, isn't just stuck to one position, which is something I think that we have a problem with on our list, with too many players who play in the same type of position who are not versatile, which I'm going to get into a little bit later in the video as well. If you do like this content, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps the YouTube algorithm when you do so. It will ensure that you never miss a video. It only takes 1 second to do so, and it doesn't cost any money. So if you can click that subscribe button now, I would really, really appreciate it. I'm just making an assumption here as well that we're not trading the picks for Harley Reid or anything like that. That might happen if the opportunity arises. You'd obviously look at that very closely and consider it and things like that. But I'm just making an assumption that we're going to be using the picks in this particular, assessment on young talent. The question is, who are we probably going to pick up, and what top? Not so much who, because obviously that could be out of our hands. Other teams are going to have, the first 3 or 4 picks in the draft before us. But what type of player do we really need for the first couple of picks? So at the moment, that's picks 5 and 6. And I thought that was an interesting discussion to have, which I wanted to talk about, because as I look at our forward line, one thing I don't necessarily think we should be looking at the moment are tall forwards. Whilst we only have really one, maybe that you would call potentially generational player in Caddy, touch wood, that's what we hope. I mean, we don't know, but hopefully he becomes that. But what we do have is a whole lot of depth, and we've got a lot of players that actually probably deserve to remain on the list. But if you just have a look at this list of players, it's just, we have so many of the same type of player. I mean, we have Caddy, we have McMahon, who hasn't played a game yet, but I think is, due to be selected in the senior side at some point, maybe this week against Gold Coast coming up, if not very soon, you would think. He's our leading goal kicker, and he's only played 4 games, and he's also the leading goal kicker for Carlton. He's the leading goal kicker for 2 clubs, and he's what you would call a traditional full forward in that, he's not necessarily that athletic, but he can mark, he can kick straight, he can mark on the lead, all those sort of things. He's a good conventional full forward, so he'll stay on the list, I would think. So you got Caddy, you got McMahon, you got Archer May, who only played the 1 reserves game and has played 2 senior games, so he's played, let's face it, the majority of games, even though it's only small games, in the seniors so far. You've got Langford, who's injured at the moment, but during Brad Scott's tenure has played exclusively really at full forward for the 2 years prior to this year when he wasn't injured. You've got Peter Wright, who's been in really good form this year. You've got Sam Draper, even when he's not injured. Let's go with the assumption that Sam Draper stays on the list. He might not. It's probably 50-50 at this stage. But Draper was playing really half the time, or maybe 30 to 40% of the time, as a forward, while Nick Bryan was playing as a ruckman. And Draper was actually having quite a bit of success as a forward. I think he kicked 7 or 8 goals. He didn't miss a shot at all with his little, unconventional snapshot that he's got. But he was really playing at least half the time as a forward, and was actually listed as a forward on the team sheet when the team would release the team on Thursday nights. He was listed out there as a forward. You've got Tom Edwards, who obviously has an ACL at the moment, who was picked up as a forward, and you've got, and I hesitate to put this player in, Harrison Jones, who has been playing as a mobile wingman, mainly because he's a man without a position, but he was initially drafted as a full forward or as a key forward, which is really his position. It's just that there's so many players ahead of him. They're trying to really recreate him into a mobile wingman, and it hasn't really worked. So you've got Caddy, McMahon, May, Langford, Wright, Draper, Edwards, Jones. There's like 8 players really, and all of those players really have been, except for really Edwards and McMahon, have been really senior players. I include May in that because he's only played the one reserves game and then he was put into the seniors. So all these players, when fit, really were playing in the senior side. And McMahon will be one who I think will get a debut shortly. So whilst there's only probably one generational player in there, hopefully Caddy, and like I said, we don't know, but let's just hope that's the case, we don't really need more players to add to that list. There's a lot of... And then you've got Cale Girine in there as well, who's in the reserves and getting better all the time. So you can put Girine in there, but he's not quite ready for seniors just yet. So one thing I think we don't necessarily need is forwards. I think we've got too many... Maybe not too many. Well, we've got too many of the same type, put it that way. Too many of the same type. And that goes into my discussion also with the midfield. And we have a lot of midfield players that are kind of your in and under players. And one thing I think we do need in the draft is more versatility in the midfield. So we need a player, I think, more like a Zach Merritt. Now, obviously, it's hard to find a player of that quality, but if you're picking at number 4, 5, 6 in the draft, hopefully you can find one. But the thing about Merritt, the reason why Merritt has been playing in the back line a little bit and in the forward line is because he can play in the back line or the forward line. The problem with Sartis and Hobbs, one of the reasons Sartis isn't perhaps getting games, is that he can only really play in the midfield in that sort of in and under position. Same with Hobbs. Same with Durham, same with Parrish. I mean, you can't really put Parrish in the forward line, can you? You can't really play Sartis or Hobbs in the forward line, but you can play Merritt down there. So we've got too many players like Sartis, Hobbs, Durham, Caldwell, Parrish, Setterfield. So it's about 6 players that are all kind of the same type of player. And yes, I know you guys will say, well, they are a bit different. Yeah, well, of course, every player is a bit different, but they all are much the same type of player, and you can't really play those players in the back line or in the forward line as a goal kicker. They've only really got one position. So that's one of the reasons why Merritt has just been playing in all these different positions, because he can, and we need other players like that. So if we're going to pick up Sweid and Al Achkar with hopefully 2 of our later picks, it obviously depends on a lot of different things. It depends if other teams are going to bid early on these players. They may not. But really, with our first 2 picks, I think we need to go for really versatile midfielders. We need midfielders that are capable of also not playing in the midfield, if you get what I mean. Just like Merritt is capable of not playing in the midfield. And Nick Martin. Merritt and Nick Martin are players that can play in the midfield, but they can also play in other positions. They use Martin across half-back, and it drives me nuts. I think Martin should be in the forward line, or at least forward of centre. But they use him there because they can use him there. He's capable of playing that position. He can play as a wingman. He can play in the forward line, and of course he can play in the midfield itself. So we really need more of that type of player, because we have players in the reserves at the moment that potentially, like Sartis, who could be in the seniors if we didn't have so many players also playing in his position. So if you have a look at the type of players that we need, there's a couple of players, if you look at the potential draft order, that are top 5, top 6 selections. Now, the top selection in the draft is probably going to be Cooper Duff Tyler. He plays for the Calder Cannons. He's a ruck forward. He's obviously going to be a really good player. It's probably good for us that he goes, someone else picks him, because we probably don't really want to pick a player like that. And if you have number 1 pick, you're kind of obligated to pick the best player and pick him. So I'd like us to pick, personally, the best available midfielder. So, and the best versatile midfielder. So a midfielder that can also play another position. So the players that you're kind of looking at is Willem Dersma, who's the brother of Xavier Dersma. So he is kind of a player that fits that mould. He's athletic, he's hard-working, he's a combative, he's a good defensive player. He can kick the ball, which is something that, we need. It sounds obvious, but we need players who can kick. I think we should only pick players who are, excellent kicks of the ball. And he's projected to be maybe a top 4 pick, somewhere like that. So it's sort of on the cusp of where Essendon's picks are going to fall. He might just go before we get a pick, but, it's going to be around that level. Josh Lindsay, who plays for the Geelong Falcons, is one that keeps coming up. The thing about him is that he can play midfield, but he can also play across half-back. So you don't need him in the midfield all the time like you do. Like Parrish has to play in the midfield when he's there. There's nowhere else he can play. Right? So Lindsay is the type of player that can play in the midfield, but he can also go across half-back. He's got a really good skill set. He's got good bounce off half-back. He's got a lot of dare and carry and run and all that sort of thing. Everyone is has big raps on him, and he's probably the most clinical, user of the football in terms of his skill level. So he's going to get picked up, certainly in the top 5 or 6, and we're going to be in the market for that. But they're the two type of players I think that we really need to look at, just because they are, they're versatile. They don't just have that in and under, part to their game and nowhere else. If they're not playing in the midfield, we can say, okay, well, they're not playing in the midfield. We can push them across to half back, or we can push them across to half forward. Another one who fits the mould of the type of player I think we should be looking at is a player called Noah Hibbins-Hargraves. So he is a strong marking, smooth moving, half forward winger type player. So he can play, as a midfield or as a wing. But he can also move to the forward line, which is what we need. We need a player that when they're not in the midfield, when they're not in their position, they can move forward and they can still have an impact on the game. And we have too many players who are not like that, if you like. And he is a player that is projected to maybe be a top 20 pick, but a lot of people think it could be higher. It could potentially be top 10. Some say sort of 15, 16. Others say 7, 8, 9, something like that. But I really think those are the type of players that we really should be looking at. I want to know what you guys think. Do you agree with my assessment that we have too many of the same type of players in terms of our forward line? And I'm talking about our tall forwards. And we have too many of the same type of players in our midfield, the in and under types. And we need more versatile players and more players who can kick the ball. That's the other thing I would do. I would sort of take the Hawthorn philosophy. If a player can't kick, then it doesn't matter what else they can do. Don't pick them. All right? Don't pick them. I mean, the player must be able to kick the ball. And a lot of these versatile players, especially players like Lindsay, who could help with that transition play as well, because he's a midfielder that plays across half-back, who knows how to use the ball. And as I've said many times on this channel, the key to winning football games is the turnover game. If you kick the ball to the opposition, you're essentially playing for the opposition. And being able to, take the ball off the opposition and keep the ball and be able to move it quickly with skill is really the way to win football games now. And those are the type of players we need. It's all very well to have good in and under players. There's nothing wrong with that. Every club needs them. But at the end of the day, you have to use the ball, and you need versatile players that can move out of the midfield and can also play across the half-back line, half-forward line when they're not in the midfield. So that's the kind of strategy I think we should be looking at. Now, whilst we might not necessarily be able to pick up those players, hopefully we can pick up one of them or maybe even two. We're going to have, certainly 2 reasonably good picks. So I think that's probably the strategy we should be looking at. I would not be taking any tall players. I don't think we need any tall players. I mean, we've picked up in the mid-season draft. We picked up. That's where we picked up our tall players, didn't we? If you look at the start of this year, we didn't have McMahon, we didn't have Archer May, and we didn't have Blackiston. And now we've got Archer May, we've got McMahon, and we've got Blackiston, and we're going to have them next year as well. So we've already got those tall players as a kind of bonus from the mid-season draft. We sort of don't really need to pick any up in the... maybe you could use a later pick if we end up having a later pick. Through the trade, we have a 5th pick somewhere, or how the draft works. You could, there's a lot of variables that could happen. But I really think we need midfielders who are versatile, who have skill. So, they're the ones I'm kind of looking at. Lindsay, Hibbins-Hargraves, and Dersma. And if not those players who are at least have that kind of skill set, because I think that is where we're falling down at the moment. I think our list is too unbalanced. I look at the team every week and I try to put together what I think the team should be structured. And there's just so many tall forwards. It's hard to know how to fit everyone in the side. So I just think we need a more balanced list. So I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Subscribe to this channel. Like this video if you like the content I provide. Have a great day, everybody. And as always, go Bombers.